Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Hey, it's Rikke here, and welcome back, or welcome, full stop, to episode 35 of the Career Change Podcast. How to stop pinballing and start getting career change clarity instead. Let me ask you something. Do you feel like a pinball? Do you feel torn between wanting a lot of different things, both inside and outside of work? And hence you kind of feel like a pinball. You know, you're being pushed and pulled and pointed in all kind of different directions, but you're never really getting anywhere concrete, at least not outside of your head. Or maybe you feel paralyzed or stuck. You know, pinballs, they get stuck too. That sounds like you. I can help. This episode definitely will. We'll talk about how to get out of that, let's face it, totally exhausting and never-ending pinballing with your life and work by focusing on getting career change clarity first. Now, in a minute, I'm going to read an email out to you, the kind of email that I get a lot. And if you feel like you can relate to that email, then this particular podcast episode is perfect for you. So keep listening. And it's an email. The email is an amalgamation of a variety of emails that I get a lot of over at the careerchangepodcast.com. So if you're not signed up for my newsletter there, for my list, then make sure you do so. Then you can also ask questions for this podcast. So here's a classic email that I get. Hi, Rikke. I hate my job, but I don't know what I want to do instead. I feel pulled in a ton of different directions, but I also don't feel like my life is set up in such a way that I can go back to university or retrain or change careers. 40, or it could be 50, is my next big birthday, and I worry about the impact of this too. And I also feel like I should go traveling and maybe also living abroad or maybe even move to the sea or countryside. You know, I've lived in a big city for the last 10 years. And then there's also the pressure to have kids or more kids or a house or not. I honestly feel like a pinball constantly being pinged from one conflicting desire to another. Or I feel totally stuck. Help! Does that sound familiar? Then keep listening. In this episode, we'll talk about some proven ways to start untangling this out-of-control pinballing scenario. Can I hear a sigh of relief up front? Okay. Now, let it be said right up front as well, for the purposes of this episode, I am a professional career change advisor, so I will be coming at this subject from that angle, right? This is, after all, the Career Change Podcast. So I'm coming at this from the work angle, hence the title. And that's the solution as well. How to stop pinballing and start getting career change clarity instead. And this is especially since work, what you do for a living, it colors everything. We spend so many of our waking hours working. As a matter of fact, a lot of people think we probably end up working about 80,000 hours throughout a lifetime. Probably more, actually, I would say, at this stage. And you likely haven't even worked half of that time yet. You still have so many years left to work. That's why it's so important we focus on getting that right. And what I also would say is work is also the one thing that 99% of the people listening to the show will have to do in order to survive or thrive financially. You know, at least at this stage, in our evolution as humans, you know, the other things mentioned, they're kind of on top of that. Whereas work is a necessity for survival in a capitalist society, at least at this moment in time. What's also important to remember, and the positive thing about it, is that work is actually the one area that you actually do personally have the most control over in terms of getting started with solving. And I know that might feel hard to believe if right now you're an employee and you feel like things out of your hands. But really, work is the one area you can address right away. So addressing the work area first at least in terms of getting clarity, and then you can decide what to do. But in terms of getting the clarity, that is a powerful way to start taking control of the pinball machine, and the one most immediately accessible to everyone listening to this podcast. Also remember, as with any other podcast that I do, everything I share in these episodes, and in this episode particularly, it's based on those of my techniques that my own clients have told me have helped them immensely. And this particular episode is especially going to be helpful for you if you're the classic multi-passionate, overwhelmed, or overthinking kind of person. So listen with an open mind and take and apply what you need the most right now. But I think we can both agree that keeping up pinballing is just not a feasible way for you to keep going. It's exhausting and it gets you nothing. Of course, with everything, it goes without saying, there is a lot to be said about this topic. But I want just this particular episode to be a quick whistle-stop tour, as in, Rikke, I need help right now. Give me something I can do. That's what this is aimed at. Obviously, if I knew personal details about you, about your values, about your timelines, then we could take that into account. But that's not for a podcast episode to do. And also what I would say, there's a lot around these kind of things that have been raised in these emails. I will do future episodes about the same topic as well. So let me know if there's anything you felt was missed out or you want me to go deeper with. Okay, I'm over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. So let's talk about how to stop pinballing. 3 concrete approaches. Okay, let's do them in order rather than going through all of them up front. Let's do them in order. First of all, and this is where I always start with my clients, strategy number 1, differentiate between figuring out if and how much of a career change you actually need, and hence being able to identify your best options, and also having the issue of figuring out if you want to go traveling, if you want to move abroad, if you want to have more kids or buy property, whatever it is. So let me say that again. Differentiate between figuring out if and how much of a career change you actually need, and hence being able to identify your best options, and also having the issue of figuring out if you want to go traveling, if you want to move abroad, if you want kids, if you want property and all of that. Don't treat them as one big issue to be approached in one go. They are not one big issue. They're very distinct issues, even though they obviously overlap in certain manners. But not all of them matter equally or is of equal urgency. And nor do they necessarily have to be in conflict. Actually, a lot of them, you can solve them together. But what I've noticed with most career change clients who come my way and who reflect the scenario in the email I just read out to you, they often don't yet know what they want, or they have too many ideas. But they haven't even taken the time to figure out why, or even if they need a career change, right? Versus just having some kind of knee-jerk solution. And hence they're finding it impossible to know what their options are or could be. Right? Because they haven't even taken the time to figure out if and why they need a career change. Figuring out if or why and how much of a change you actually need, plus what your best options are, that is absolutely within your control to start focusing on. Remember, work will impact everything, right? That is so important. So my advice to you is this. If you are feeling torn between all of those things mentioned in the email, start by getting career change clarity first, i.e., first of all, focus on figuring out if and why you even need, if you even need a career change and why you need a career change and how much of a change you need. And that will allow you then to figure out what your best options are and deciding that. If you don't solve your career issue, and remember, it does never have to be a matter of all or nothing, but if you don't get clarity on what your career issues are and what your best options, solutions therefore are, it will color everything else on the list of what you want. Because if you are not happy at work, it will color everything else. It will impact everything else negatively or positively daily. Just think about how unhappy you probably are right now in terms of your work. So if you didn't, that it impacts everything, right? So start by focusing on figuring out your what. And that's something, what is it you want to do next, work-wise, career-wise, business-wise? That's something you can absolutely start right now. And that does not have to take years. It can take just a number of months. And once you get clarity on the career front, on the work front, that clarity will at the same time, which is what's so brilliant about this, it'll at the same time also help you make better decisions and get more clarity around the other areas and the timing of them and the importance or not of them, right? Where they fit in and when and in what order to do them, what comes first, second, third, etc., right? And also, this is what I see again and again with my clients. Once you actually identify career change options or own business options you're actually excited about, you will also generally find that a lot of the other things that you thought you wanted, they actually seem a lot less appealing and you realize they weren't the solution. We'll get to then point number 3. So stop being a pinball and look at where you can start getting clarity, make decisions, simplify. And remember, a career change does not have to be a matter of all or nothing. It generally is just something. And the thing is, once you know your what it is you want to do next, then you can look at all the other outside of work issues too. And again, figuring out what you really want career-wise does not have to take long. Not doing this foundational work in terms of finding out if you even need a career change, why you need a career change, and how much, and then assess what your best options are. Not doing that foundational work is the biggest mistake I see aspiring career change and entrepreneurs make, right? They tend to just think, oh my God, I hate my job. What else can I do? Rather than looking at what is the problem they're actually trying to solve by changing careers or starting their own business. What is that problem? Because if you don't know what that problem is, you're not going to find solutions. And even worse, you're going to end up replicating the very same problems in that next career or in your own business. Okay? So figure out, get career change clarity first. Okay? You might already be well on your way with that, but it's really focus on that exclusively first. Now, if you are also struggling with this in terms of figuring out, if you need a change, how much and all of that, then 2 good podcast episodes to revisit or listen to are episode 31, What Can I Get With What I've Got? And also episode 30, Will I Throw It All Away If I Change Careers? Also, if you want professional help with this particular thing, then check out my career change program, Your Career Change Map. Over at thecareerchangepodcast.com, there is a button that says work with me and then options. And on that page, I actually list out the entire career change framework that I take my clients through to help them figure out if they even need a career change, how much of a change they need, and then how to figure out their best options. So by reading through that page, you will actually see the framework that I use so you can get some really helpful pointers as to how the process actually works. Okay, and you will also see that it does not have to take years. It generally will take a number of months. Also, what I would say, if you found that you've already wasted way too many months or even years trying to figure this out on your own, then do make sure you check out your career change map. Okay, so remember, strategy number 1 is really to differentiate between figuring out if and how much of a career change you need, and therefore being able to identify your best options, and also having the issue of figuring out if you want to go traveling, you want to move abroad, you want more kids, you want property, all of that. They are different issues. Treat them accordingly and start with figuring out the career change clarity first. Okay, let's move on to the next point. Number 2, question your career change assumptions. Point number 2, question your career change assumptions. You've likely heard me say this before, because this is where people really get the knickers in the twist. So first of all, do you remember the email I read out to you? I so often hear the phrase, my life is not set up to change careers or this and that. And my answer is, of course your life right now is not set up to change careers. Right now, and for the last number of years, your life has been set up to cope with your work and to reflect the amount of money you're likely compensated for that exchange. But all your current scenario is a snapshot in time reflecting your professional status. That is not a non-negotiable snapshot. Those circumstances are not non-negotiable. You can choose to change those circumstances over time, starting today, if something means more to you than what you currently have. Now, that might take time, but time will pass anyway. Wouldn't you rather spend it getting something you actually want? So even if you don't feel like your life is set up right now to change careers, that is not a reason. That's not a showstopper. So please stop saying things like that and believing them if you're actually keen to change careers. You have way more power and opportunities to change. Don't be the person blocking your own way because you're not open to questioning your assumptions. And especially if you are not happy with the real price or sacrifice you're making 8 hours plus a day for keeping that life set up, then you really want to question yourself here. Remember, you still have probably at least 20 plus years left to work. Imagine doing that in the scenario you're in right now, your current life setup, going to that work over the next 20 years or something similar. That is not sustainable neither. So actually, your current life setup is probably not sustainable, full stop. There'll be burnout, resentment, all of that. So just question your assumptions. Just because you don't feel that right now your life is set up to change careers, that's not a reason why you couldn't change it so that it can be. I have never had any client come my way whose life was perfectly set up to change careers. Nah, life doesn't work like that. Remember, where you are right now and your personal scenario, that is a snapshot in time in this very moment. You can absolutely change that if you want to. Anyway, time will pass. Use it wisely, okay? I feel so strongly about this one. And this is really the answer to so many things. But my life or XYZ isn't up to change careers? Of course not. But that's not an excuse. That's just an explanation of where you are right now. If you want something different, then of course things have to change, okay? Secondly, also when we read through that email, did you notice there was this kind of all or nothing tendency? But I cannot go back to university. I cannot retrain. There's all these kind of assumptions that a career change means that this is like massive upheaval, going back to uni for many years and bottom of the ladder, all that kind of stuff. Question your assumptions, my friend. Assumptions, that about what a career change means. I can tell you the majority of my clients, my career change clients, they have not had to go back to university for years or go to the bottom of the ladder and all of that. And also remember that if you're also willing to consider something like self-employment, you have a lot less gatekeeper issues to deal with. But please question your assumptions and stop sabotaging your career change from the very beginning when you don't even know what you want yet. Often when people don't know what they want, they go into extremes. They have to, but there's no point in changing unless I do something completely different. Or it's going to be, no, I'm worried because if I do this, it's going to mean that. Question your assumptions, okay? Don't waste your energy on assumptions that have no basis in reality. So again, go back to that point number 1 and get clarity on what you actually want first. Okay. There's also an episode of the Career Change podcast, episode 17, that's called Do I Really Have to Retrain? You might want to check out as well. But really, point number 2, I go on with these ones, right? Point number 2 is really to question your career change assumptions in terms of how things work. This is so important. In general, a career change rarely is a matter of all or nothing. It is a matter of something. And it's something that actually solves the problem you have in your hands and give you work that you love. Okay? So please get into the habit of whenever you feel like you're pinballing, just question your assumptions because you might be making assumptions about something that you don't actually know about. Okay? I got off my high horse there. So point number 3, or strategy number 3, be honest. Are you looking for a quick escape or a real solution? Point number 3, be honest. Are you looking for a quick escape or a real solution? Here's what I mean by that. Whenever clients, they come to me with this pinballing scenario, and we start digging into all of the other things they also think they want, it turns out that those outside of work things are often not actually options that they truly want. nor are those options actually viable solutions to the problems they have at work or outside of work. Rather, they are attracted, these aspiring career changers, they are attracted to those options because they secretly hope or believe that it offers a quick escape from the job they hate and are currently in without them having to do any work up front or too much decision making. A so-called escapist fantasy. Be honest. Can you recognize yourself in that too? These kind of escapist fantasy, coming up with and feeling attracted to escapist fantasies, especially if you're just feeling way too burned out to think too hard about anything. I bet you've been there. We've all been there, right? But be very, very careful. And when I say this, I'm especially talking about things like traveling or moving somewhere else, obviously less about kids and property. But a lot of these escapist fantasy, they come about because you're just fed up and all you are exhausted, you're burned out, you're fed up, and you just want to get away, relax, feel more alive, explore. You can deal with all of your work problems later, right? Now, I am a global citizen who has done a lot of traveling and living abroad, right? I've actually lived outside of my country of birth since the early 90s. So I love traveling and I love living abroad. That is not what I am dissing here. I'm talking about the danger for aspiring career changes, the danger of defaulting to escapist fantasies because you're looking for a quick, no strings attached escape, escapist fantasy instead of choosing solid timing and valid reasons and genuine solution. Okay, you might be the exception here where traveling is perfect. You might have a valid reason or moving somewhere else. But here's what I can tell you honestly. And I think this is really important to talk about because this is not often what you hear on social media and all the sort of glorified versions of career change. But I have lost track of the amount of aspiring career changers and aspiring entrepreneurs who, rather than getting clear on what, do they need a change? How much of a change they need? What are their best options? Instead of doing that first, they instead quit the job they hate without doing any thinking or any problem solving up front, and they go traveling or they move somewhere else without any backup or solutions or clarity. They spend a lot of money traveling because they want to see loads. Now they have a chance to achieve a lot of traveling, type A, I want to see as much as I can, do as much as I can. And then secretly, they somehow hope that they'll have their aha moment. Out of the blue, they hope to find their passion on a yoga retreat or ayahuasca retreat or in the middle of the Ural Mountains or whatever. I'm poking at you here a little bit, right? Only to come back to the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, wherever you're listening from, to find when they come back home, they often feel even more lost, even more confused with regards to work and everything else. And now, and this is the kicker for a lot of people, now they desperately need to make money again because they burn through the saving going traveling. So often what I see happening therefore is they come back, from traveling, they're desperate, they knee-jerk, they go back to the very same job they hated, or even worse, in the field that they swore they would never touch again. Or they end up doing underpaid casual work, which is a whole different problem spiral in itself. Okay. And now they feel like they have even less options than before they went traveling, i.e., the quick escape was not actually the solution they hoped for. It was just a buffer from dealing with the real issues. And I really want to talk about this because often what you hear about are the exceptions to this. Oh, I found my life purpose in Bali. Do you know what I mean? Do you see where I'm getting at here? I promise you, you do not have to go to Bali to find your life purpose or your passion or anything like that. No matter where you are in the world right now, and especially if you're home, you can start deciding what you want to matter most at this stage in your life and follow that and decide and create purpose, create excitement and all of that. What if you actually figured out the career work thing before going traveling? Because once you're sorted and you actually have clarity about what you want, and if traveling and moving abroad is still desirable and the timing is right, then you can look at your options and plan so you don't have to come back to a desperate scenario. And you can also actually enjoy the traveling rather than being haunted by your unresolved issues, right? I know this from, clients who've gone traveling without sorting their stuff out. On that beautiful beach in the middle of nowhere, there was bummer, I still have these issues. They're hanging over me. I can't really enjoy the margarita. You get my point. Or this is what I've often done with my clients. It might actually be that you could design your own company, right? Which would allow you to work from anywhere. So you can actually do work you enjoy and also travel and work from anywhere, but get that career change clarity sorted first. So you can actually enjoy your trips rather than keeping to have to push back the worries about the job or the work that you hate, right? There are so many better ways to approach this career change clarity thing than just to go for the quick escape and having to deal with the mess later, okay? Why wouldn't you rather want to get clear on your solutions up front and then plan accordingly, right? There are so many ways of getting things that you want if you actually do proper solution finding. The same thing with moving to the countryside or abroad without getting career change clarity first. What's the point of living in Paris if you hate the job you do there 8 hours plus a day? Or what's the point of moving to a stunning remote beach if you're stuck working remotely at a job you hate with no social life and no big city life things to distract you from your pain? Hello, all the numbing you might get into there, alcohol, etc., right? Exceptions exist, of course, but you get my point. I'm trying to help you make a really good rational decision here. So watch out for escapist fantasies that don't actually solve your problem. Watch out for knee-jerk and freak-out reactions that do not reflect your true values. You still have 10, 20, 30, whatever more years left to work. So remember, work will be a key factor no matter what else. Solve it first, get clarity on it first. And once you have the clarity around the options, then you can then decide what you do. Okay, what comes first? But let's get honest. And we're going to finish with this. Let's be honest. Here is why it's so attractive to pinball. Bear in mind that pinballing, as painful as it can feel and as exhausting as it can feel, it's often an avoidance technique. It is attractive because it's an avoidance technique. It's easier to keep the pinballing pouring drama going, anything else but having to make actual decisions and do some real problem solving, right? Remember, you are the one who keeps this pinballing going to distracting yourself and feel like at least you're doing something, right? You're pinballing, even if you have nothing to show for it. It's easier to pinball than to face reality, right? And the fact that you need to make decisions about what matters most. Slippery slope, right? So do yourself a favor and put a stop to it. Remember these 3 strategies. Number 1, differentiate between figuring out if and how much of a career change you need, and therefore being able to identify your best options, and also having the issues of figuring out if you want to go traveling, moving abroad, kids, house, and all of that. They're separate issues. They might overlap, but you need to approach them individually, starting with the career change clarity. Number 2, question your career change assumptions. And number 3, be honest. Are you looking for a quick escape or a real solution? Remember the title of this episode because the clarity is there. The indication as to how do you get out, it's in there. How to stop pinballing but it could also be start getting career change clarity. So focus on getting career change clarity first. That you can start doing. There's no reason why you couldn't start doing that now. Versus trying to get pregnant overnight, good luck. Career change clarity, you can start with that now. This is something you have 100% control over doing right now. It will help you get clarity and also put all the other things into context too. Give yourself the gift of doing that right now. It's time to get out of pinballing mode. Do check out episode 30 and 31 and come over also to the careerchangepodcast.com and check out your career change map for further professional guidance, for frameworks so you understand how this works. My friend, there has never been a better or more important time to stop pinballing. So take all that energy that you right now put into pinballing and focus in it on creating work you love instead. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you over at the careerchangepodcast.com. Thank you.